Hi everyone. So I'm going to start this series to alter cards. Any trading cards, any Pokemon cards, any Magic the Gathering cards, everything that you feel like you have that you want to start altering because you want to make a gift for a friend, or you want to start your own business, or whatever you feel like. You just want to have a little thing fun to do from time to time. You want to transform this into a full-time job like me. Whatever you feel like it, just go for it. And there is so many playing cards at the moment that it's so easy to find one and start experimenting, and maybe you will enjoy the process and you will carry on. One thing I've noticed that there is a lot of tutorials about altering playing cards, but there's not something that goes in depth and shows you actually how to do it, like a step by step, like we keep some big secrets, and if you find out, we might lose our job or anything. I think that we have so much access to everything nowadays, and for me it's important to share this and to make sure that we can actually be able to inspire people and getting people to do what they love, depending if they want to do like a full-time job or just a hobby time to time. In this case, I am specialized in full art, and I use mainly Magic the Gathering cards. And with this one, I want to show you an example of what actually you can do. But first thing first, I want to show you also some basic tools you might need. And again, of course, you need a card, the first thing. And the card, the better condition that you get the card, the better. Of course, you will create some designs on the part of the front of the card. Usually behind there is the logo of the company, or whatever. Sometimes there are cards that are double-sided, but we will see that in another video. So we just focus on the simple cards that they have designed just on the front. And when it comes to altering, one important thing is that you want to make sure that the name, the type, the eventually other important information like stats or whatever you have, like in this case we have a triangle. This is like holographic, so you want to make sure that it's never covered by anything. You can cover maybe the artist information, the type of card, the release date of the card, but then you want to make sure that this card needs to be playable, especially for tournaments. You want to make sure that your main elements are visible. I've made a mistake once where I've covered the entirety of the card to do a full art, and that could be anything. I mean, I could just go for just a blank piece of card. You don't want to do the same mistake, especially if you're doing a good job. So when it comes to a magic card, of course, these are the elements, but then you have actually identified 3 ways that you can alter cards. The first thing is that you can just simply extend the card in a way that you can use the background to do so. So in this case, Gigatoad has some nature background going on, so you can extend till the border the rock or the background, like if there's water, if there's grass, and you can match up. Of course, the better you do the colors, the best results you will get. And you can extend the borders basically on everything, and you will just keep the boxes intact. Another thing you can do is to just not to focus on the background, but to extend the elements on the front. For example, maybe the Gigatoad can release some sparkles, or you can add some fire, or you can extend the tongue in this case and get the tongue to reach the text box. That also is good, because you can just basically create like a 2D effect. So extending the tongue up here and then maybe adding a little bit of a shadow, that could be something fun to do to start altering cards. Or again, you can like place little dots like there are sparkles, and then again just move them across the text, so you're not You know, you don't have to feel pressure to start to create anything incredible on the background, on the front. Don't go crazy, just start with very simple things. Most of us might be artists already, and some of us might never touch the paintbrush. It's completely fine. It's like some tattoo artists are very, very good, but they are not all with the artistry background, but they are getting very good at, you know, replicating whatever they have to deal with. And of course, when you're constant in your training, when you are doing things with a passionate way, always works the best. But you know, consistency, it's the key. I know that sounds very silly, but that's the way it is. And another thing you can do with a card, it's again going full art. And that means that you can extend till the borders and cover completely the text box, and you can extend the card in a way that it matches the background, or you can go with something that is external. For example, you can put the name frog, like it would be like some graffiti style, or you can completely cover the card and you remove the already existing art and just create something on your own. Maybe you can do a frog that you've seen one day in a pond, or whatever you feel like, and you can put some imaginary character that you like, maybe from an anime, TV show, whatever. I am specializing in full art, and you might see on my Instagram, and I'm going for a series of my favorite games, TV shows, movies, and that's, for me, it's getting so fun to do. But again, we are going for the simple stuff now, because I really want to make sure to give all the knowledge and examples that will help you to achieve your dreams, if this is something that you want to do, even from time to time, if you not want to do a full-time job like me. And again, so we've got our cards, and I hope that was clear, the way you can change the card itself without going full art. So again, I repeat, you can do a borderless extension, so you just go and extend and cover all these black part mainly here, and these colored parts, so you have a seamless extension. The other thing you can do, it's a borderless extension, and also adding some elements from the front that they will kind of touch the text box and create a 2D, 3D effect. Or you can just erase all the previous art, keep all just the main information that you want to keep the card playable even in tournaments, and just go and draw on top whatever you want. One important thing, whatever you do, again, is to make your surface clean. You see there is a lot of blotchiness and paint stains, but I will show you what to do. So we remove the card on the side, and this is just a cake box it's a base of a cake box that I've got from a previous birthday, and it's nice and sturdy. I love it, and it's a great base to just place your cards, so you can keep these, and you know, you can move this if you don't have a specific area where you work. Having like a cardboard that you can stuck your cards onto, it's great. And this is what I'm using. It's just alcohol that I've placed in a spritz bottle. It's so useful. So make sure that you get some empty bottle from whatever you've got, even a products that you don't use anymore, maybe hairspray or something. And then with a clean towel, a clean tissue, you will just go, and again, you want to make sure that there is no dust, pet's hair, anything that you don't want. Of course, your card needs to be clean, and your surface needs to be clean too. Again, if you are, creating something, especially if you're doing commissions for other people, you also want to make sure that your hands are clean. And I use a hand sanitizing spray. Of course, you can just wash your hands, but you want to make sure that everything is clean. Also, because your hands can carry on you can spread some maybe oils from your fingers, or maybe you've been eating pizza before and your hands are still dirty. You wanna really make sure that your hands are clean and your surface is clean. So we removed most of the dust particles and whatever pet's hair that you have with alcohol, rubbing alcohol, any alcohol that you have, even vodka. If you don't have rubbing alcohol, vodka, it's a disinfectant, you can use that. At the end of the day, it's alcohol. I'm sorry, this is kind of so stained on the paper that of course it will always be like looks dirty, but it's not. And you can see I have the double-sided, and I still have the you see the card aligned, that I like the black also because it looks a little bit cleaner. And I have several different things like that. But another thing that I use is another slimmer card, and then I will just place like a A4 classic like printer paper, and I will just tape it so I place the card and I can work on a nice clean surface. And of course, if I need to quickly do swatches of colors, I have the actual space, and I don't have to go directly on the card if I don't feel like I'm sure. This is for another video. Okay, clean surface. It's time to actually get the card. But the card, unless you are just working on some details and you're not touching the corners or the black border, you can just get the card, and in this case we use the back, and from the back we're going to place a piece of tape. Mind that it's not any kind of tape, but it needs to be painter's tape, and we have this. This is something that you can find in your hardware store. I'm sure at home something like that. Don't use any scotch, don't use anything that it's not meant to be, removable, like, the shipping. You can use scotch, but I think there is a matte, more like gentle version, because I've seen also makeup artists using those. So scotch as like a matte opaque crystal clear tape, but I will just go for a classic painter's tape like this. And if you want to make sure that doesn't damage the card, you can just place it on like the back of your hands or like on top of your t-shirt, so the stickiness it's a little bit less. Because the most important thing is that we don't want to ruin the card, especially the front, we don't want to ruin it. But I have my favorite here, which is washi tape. Washi tape, you can find it anywhere now. If you do bullet journaling, if you like to decorate stuff, washi tape, it's great. And you can do exactly the same as I did. And if you do need to work on the card without doing a full art extension, you can just go and, oh my god, I've lost the thingy. There you go. You can just go, sorry, I'll rip this badly, but again, that's what I was planning to do, to show you. So you can just, do it like that, so you have an edge. And then of course, if you want to make sure that you don't go with the paint over the words that you want to keep and you don't want to cover, you can use the washi tape and just cover that so you have some kind of protection. And you can of course cut to the size that you need, and that will prevent any spillage, or that if when you paint you go over. And then when everything is nice and dry, you can remove the tape. So this is what I recommend. You can get this for very cheap. Don't care about the colors, you can just get the cheapest washi tape. Actually it's the best because it's very gentle on the card. And for the back it's okay to use painter's tape. There's also like a purple version. I think it's even more gentle. But again, we need the card to be still. You wanna move it, and the card gets stuck. This is very important because when you paint, if the card starts to move around, that will be such a mess. You don't wanna, chase your card for the entirety of a table. That will waste your time and get you very frustrated. Another important thing, so I'll show you. You grab your card, whatever you've got, and I use these little these like mini tissue that usually nail art artists use, because this, it's like, doesn't release particles or dust. They are like cotton and they are gentle, and you can drench this in alcohol or water and you can just clean. The card needs to be clean again because the oils from your finger or anything that it's around, maybe a little bit of dust, and also because if you're working on a second-hand card, so that means that a card that had a previous owner and you're working on that, you need to clean this, because the paint or whatever you're going to cover the card with, it might not act properly because you didn't clean it. And the same alcohol that I show you, so rubbing alcohol, white alcohol, whatever, you just give it a 2 good spritz. And this is where you wanna be very careful. You don't wanna keep the wet alcohol part on the card for too long. So what I like to do is just like kind of wrap my finger. Of course, I'm using this kind of tissue, but if you don't have, just use a regular tissue. Just make sure that it's not like having so many particles that the tissue destroys itself when you use it. And then I will just go gently, very gently, like a caress, and use the alcohol, but never, never, never keep the thing stuck in place, because this is a printed product and it might just melt and you will ruin the card basically. So you want to really be careful when you use alcohol, and starting from the center, you will just go in circles and make sure that you always move the thing that you're using as a tissue. And again, another important thing, whatever you're using alcohol, a little spritz of water to use, don't do it directly on the card, always use a tissue, and make sure that you don't get wet in the corners, the edges. They need to be dry always, because what's happening is that, and I've ruined a couple of cards in the beginning when I started, the alcohol will penetrate, the water will penetrate here. There is not kind of protection. So if this gets like a little pool of water, a pool of alcohol or anything, or if you keep this for too long in the same place, this will melt and will lift the card. So you will have like a rising edge. You don't want that. The card needs to be in the perfect condition. You want to make sure that you focus on the center and you don't go too much on the edges unless you're very quick, and you don't drench the card. So it needs to be kind of dry. You don't want to ruin your card, especially if it's a commission or a gift. Also because the damage can go on the back as well. So you want to focus on the center of the card, and you don't want to rub or doing this for too long, because it's going to melt the print as well. So everything is nice and clean. We wait for the alcohol or the water to dry. If you don't want to wait, you can just grab another dry tissue and just again rub. I like to make the alcohol evaporate so I don't keep touching and rubbing. And after this, another important step is to use a primer. And primer wise, I will show you in a minute. In the hardware store or in any art store, you have a primer. You need a matte acrylic spray. Matte acrylic spray, it's what you will need to primer the card and also to seal the card afterwards. And that helps for the paint to grip. That also prevents the paint, that whatever you're gonna use is going to scratch and remove itself. So it works as a protection for the card, it works as a gripper for your paint, and this is something that I recently added and it's changing my life. And I will recommend to use. If you don't use a primer because maybe you're allergic or there's no matte acrylic spray available and you cannot buy one because it's too expensive, it's okay. Once you get at least the alcohol and you make sure that you've cleaned your card good enough, that already removing everything that it's not necessary will help a little bit already to paint. When it comes to painting, whatever you have available, it's good. If you have acrylics, you can use acrylics. This is a very nice brand from Italy. It's called My Mary. It's a titanium white. Titanium white is actually the white with the most coverage. So any brand that shows titanium white on the label, you will know that it's the highest coverage white you can get. And there's also zinc white, but that's offers less coverage. So always look up for titanium white when it comes to painting tubes or anything that is related to paint, basically. The card, you don't need to primer and counteract with color every time, but of course you have to look at your card first. So I need to create a black base or I need a white base, because that will affect the results on the color. But in this case, we are just focusing on maybe little details to start with. So I don't need to go here right now. And I will focus on just extending some elements of the frog in this case. But if I do need to enhance the colors that I'm going to put on top, I can also use a black acrylic marker. You can also use a Sharpie. You can use a Posca. Just make sure that the surface that you're going to create that little black or white, it's clean. These are perfect because the consistency, it's already perfect. You don't need to add water, you don't need to do anything else. When it comes to priming, again, if you need, you can prime in gray. You can prime, so you mix any black color with white, titanium white. You can prime with just plain white as I show you, or you can just cover things that you need in black. That will depend on the type of card and type of altar that you're going to do. So again, in this case, if I want to do like a full extension border, I will probably go for a black base, and then I will use light colors to bring up the dimension and the background that I want. For the tongue, I will probably go for white because this is much lighter, and I can just trace the white here and that will be good, so I know where the design can go. You can also use just a pencil to trace, but it gets very light if you don't see very well. Maybe I won't recommend that. So ideally you always want to have a little base, also because the color will grip better. I will always recommend to use acrylics to create the base, just because acrylics will, blend smoothly and will create a very gripping base. And then after that, if you want to carry on with acrylics, you can go ahead. I have another Italian brand that I use, like these big tubes. I know that in USA there is Golden Fluid, but that's really expensive. I mean, you can just go to your craft store, guys. You don't want to start spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars for products that you might not use. If you already have something, use that. The difference is the quality. Something that it's more pigmented, of course, it will be easier to not to put many layers. But when something is cheap, you will just mean that you have to spend more time placing layers to get the effect that you want. But again, you can still do it with cheap products. So far, by now, it's good. And other tools that you wanna use and need, again, if you have them around your house, is the tiniest brushes that you can get. very thin. Again, don't have to spend hundreds. Just fetch whatever you have. Maybe you can borrow a brush from a friend. You see, whatever you have. And of course, I will recommend to have tiny brushes, pointy brushes that you can also get from miniature stores. And the tiniest you have, the better. But also like some nice flat brushes, because that, especially if you're doing like full art, so you will move and do this motion to create the base, or you can mask with the tape the words that you don't want to cover and use a white primer instead of a opaque one. You will still need a brush. And after you've created the base that you need, if you want to go ahead with acrylics, of course, it's the best technique. It's just because you have layering that gets a good result in the end. But you can also use pencils, you can use gouache, you can use even watercolors or water-soluble ones, depending on your preferred technique. But I think that's very good once you have the white base or a black base, if you want to experiment with other techniques rather than acrylics. But you need something sturdy, and acrylics, at least for the base, even if it's a tube spray, it's the best thing to get, because you want to make sure that you have the right surface, because the cards are not accepting product directly. I mean, you see how this pencil just it's struggling, and you don't want to press too hard either. You don't want to press too hard, because otherwise you will indent the card, and that will create something that you don't want, because it's gonna emboss itself in a way, and you will see that. The idea is the card needs to look like you haven't done nothing, so it's like very silky smooth. There are no scratches, there are nothing that ruins the complete product. And this is something that you will learn with time. You cannot expect that the first time you do it, it's gonna look amazing. You will have bumps, you will have texture, and that's completely fine. As you do it, you will feel and see that everything is nice and smooth. One important thing when it comes to smooth paint, and again, the base, it's what actually gives you the good start, because you want to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. And when you create your base, it's nice and smooth. So after it dries, you can just go with your finger. And if you feel like that's not good, you can quickly again with the alcohol. If you use acrylics, you can just quickly and kind of clean again. When you do this kind of trials, please maybe use a card that is inexpensive. You can start with lens as well in case of Magic the Gathering. I show you just a quick other thing. So this is a card I just started, and then you can see what I've done is I've placed matte opaque acrylic spray. I let it dry, and then I've applied a little bit of the white paint, and I just mix it with a little bit of water. I use another spritzer, and the water I use, it's clean water from my tap to wash the brushes. But when I have to mix colors, I use, this is like another spritzer that I've recovered from something that I used. And you need the water that it's been distilled. So water that you use for your car, or water that comes out of your air conditioning. You don't want to use tap water, because it's the cleanest water you can get. And then again, I've mixed that, and I got like a kind of a buttermelt consistency. I will show you in the next video. And with that, I will just go like that, very lightly. And I don't need this to be like bright white. I just need a good base that is smooth, and then I will just work on the design I am going for. And if I need to reinforce the white parts, or I need to add black parts, I will do that after. But one thing I want to make sure is I get everything covered, and there's nothing that, like, you can see. Okay, here, look what I've done. I'm scratching this because I felt like a little bump. You see, that comes off. Of course, you don't want to use your fingers. But again, if I get my, this is still like wet with alcohol, and I can just go and do that. If you're not happy with the result, you see, the card behind, it's intact, but you've removed the kind of problematic parts that you have. And then you can just gently reapply whatever you have, and then of course with that very buttermilk consistency, you just go and cover that. Let me show you quickly. So what I like to do is just to grab the tiniest amount. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, maybe you do. Yeah, tiniest amount of paint. Can be gouache as well, guys. And then I will get my clean water. I'm doing this close to the card, but please do it in a small container or anything. You don't want to, drench the card with the water. And then I will just, let me see if I can get this closer. Yeah, that's my little water. That's my white paint. This is maybe too liquid. You see how it moves? There's too much water comparing to the white. And you wanna have that butter. There we go. That looks better. You wanna spend some time doing this, guys. You wanna spend some time because you wanna get the right consistency. Also, because we are not using our wet palettes, this is going to dry soon. And I'm happy with the consistency, and I will just go see. But I created these little parts, we don't like those, so we go on the other side, and there we go. Where you see that there's something that is still kind of not aligned or too much, that you can kind of see even on the, you move the card and you see there is a blotch or a particle or a hair got stuck. You have to remove this before it gets dry, otherwise you have to scratch the card again. And then as it dries, you can quickly just go and do that. But the most important thing, don't worry if you go over on the written parts, we can fix that later. The most important thing that you're able to create a layer that it's smooth and thin. We are not, one most important thing when you're starting, you don't want to create a thick layer. Let me show you here. Look, I don't water down the paint. I'm just grabbing the paint the way it is from the tube, and I will just go down. Guys, you don't want to do this. You see it's too thick, and if you're not using the right amount, the right consistency, it's gonna create texture and your work, it's gonna look bad. Or if you're creating too much layers, so you don't create that buttery kind of finish, and you mix, you top layer again, layer, you will create the thickest thing. In this case, I just keep like, I hope you can see. There you go. I'm able to spread this, but it's getting dry and I have to be very, 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 very quick. But with this technique, I'm actually risking it because I'm creating a base that it's not smooth, while the consistency, when it's a slightly more buttery, milky, it flows better, and I don't have to rush and having troubles after. But then again, you see how the white look, because I didn't blend the product properly. And of course, another important thing is drying time. Drying time, it's very important. You want to apply the color. Once you're happy with the color, you want to let that dry, and then you can apply things on top. For example, now that we primed this, even if it's not bright white. You know, I can show you. There we go. The pencil can show, and this means that, oh, of course you have to be sure, you have to be careful with your point when you go with the pencil. You want to have very light strokes, because then we will just scratch the paint like we did with your fingers. So that's the most important thing. Also, if you create a good base, you won't have that much of this kind of effect. But this is enough to see where you want to place your design. And if you're not happy with that, you can just grab, if you have like those, this is, I forgot the name in English, but it's like, you can remove the graphite, and you see it catches the graphite, and then you can use also regular rubber and remove the design that you don't like. That usually doesn't ruin the card. And of course, whatever you do, when you use the brushes, please, you grab your pot of water, clean, fresh water, and just tap. You don't want to keep your brushes upside down. You don't want to keep them in water for too long, because they will ruin so quickly. Once you don't use a brush, you just want to rinse it, dry it, and then place it back. I don't know if that's helpful. Please let me know in the comments if there's something that I didn't cover that should be more useful. I really want to show you everything I can, but I also want to make this digestible, and I'm really hoping that this can help. And one quick thing in your toolkit, if you have like a toothpick, which I will show you in another video, and a cotton bud as well. These are not the tools that you can use to clean if you need to. But these are a little bit more tricky, so I will show you in another video. So, a quick recap. So you need a card, a surface that maybe you can move around if you don't have a specific place where you do your art in general, and nice and sturdy. You need any kind of tape that it's removable to place it on the back of the card, or to contour the edges, so you have like the card that it's stuck in place. You need wash your hands, or you need your hands clean, so you wash your hands, or you use alcohol spray for your hands. You need alcohol for cleaning surfaces to clean the card. You need clean fresh water, or even better, distilled water. You need colors that you can use to prime your card, and that can be acrylic, can be Posca, can be acrylic pens. You have to make sure that if you use painting, that will need water, nice and fresh clean water, to be mixed with, and to find the right consistency, which I'll show you a little bit. And then of course, if you have already, instead of water for adding that buttery finish, you can use also acrylic thinner, but that's a little bit more expensive, so we can carry on with water. I hope this was helpful. And of course, you need also a matte opaque spray to do it as a primer and as a finisher for the card. That will be the basic tools, guys. And then in the next video, we will talk about colors and how to place them and how to find the right things. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Ciao!